Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, or for today's video, I'll be talking about linguistics, and because this is like first time me discussing linguistics, so let's just start with the introduction of the study of language. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, when we talk about the study of language, it means we talk about how like how human being, or let's say baby, have or acquire the language. So normally when they are born, or let's say when you were born or when I was born, if the baby has no mental or physical disability, they are surely have the capacity to, for a language. It means they can speak. But if they are, let's say, deaf, they have problems with hearing and speaking, then they can use another way of communication. It's using gestures, like using a sign language. Yeah. So basically, for babies, when they are born, they have the capacity already. We call it innate capacity, and this innate capacity is not necessarily taught by people. So they don't really need like learning in acquiring the language, because they have the predictable stages. Predictable stages means they will acquire the language, like depending on their own ages, like going from babbling cries, like an infant, they cry when they want to get something, or when they want to communicate, they cry, and then go up to the next stage until they are adult, then they have full ability of speaking. People who study linguistics are normally called as linguists, but this is actually a common, miscomprehension or misinterpretation, that people say that linguists are those who can speak a lot of languages, like what we call polyglots. Linguists in fact are not polyglots. They don't really have any interest in learning languages, but they love to analyze the language. For example, they prefer to analyze the sounds, or let's say the words, the sounds, for example, the accents or dialects of certain languages, or let's say the words, how the words are formed, how words taken from other languages, what we call loan words, for example, or other things like slang. People think that like slang is not recommended to use, like teachers normally at school told you not to use like certain slang words, but for linguists they are interesting. So this is actually the difference between a linguist and also a teacher. A teacher asks you to to use this or to use that, but for a linguist, they don't really evaluate the language. They don't really think that language is good or language is bad, or let's say it's like a biologist. Like if you're a biologist, I believe that you're not really subjective to certain cell, so you don't think that this cell is pretty or that cell is ugly. Another thing in today's discussion or today's video is linguistics is basically multidisciplinary. What is multidisciplinary? So linguistics, I would say, covers many types of disciplines. For example, psychologists or anthropologists and other things. I will give you an example. For psychologists, they are interested in the study of language as a property of human mind. It means they love to analyze the study of the language because they want to know how people acquire the language. But for anthropologists, they are, on the other hand, different from psychologists. Anthropologists' main interest is more about the relationship of language and also culture. So I will give you an example. Before the 20th century, people were only thinking, were only analyzing the languages in Western Europe, for example, or let's say in Europe we have Latin, we have Greek, and we also have German. But anthropologists gave us like new insights about new findings in another continent, in America, that they give us, they gave the linguist new knowledge about the indigenous languages of Americas. So, and then afterwards the linguists tried to find the differences, that in fact the languages or the structure of indigenous languages of Americas are different from the structures of Western languages like Latin, German, and also Greek. Okay, the next one about linguistics, about the study of the language. Despite the influence, basically, I'm going to try to isolate some basic principles in the study of language, and I will start with semiotic systems. What are semiotic systems? Semiotic systems are like a system of communication, not only for human language but also for other things, to represent, you know, communication, or as the way as communication ways. For example, we have gestures. Of course, gestures are another type of communication for those who are unable to listen or to speak, so they use gestures. We also use art and dress as a means of communication. But you know, as any other systems, language also has a system, like I mentioned before, as a semiotic system. So language system includes the modes. The modes means the way how language is transmitted. We have three ways of how language is transmitted. We have speech, it means you speak, and we also have writing, it means you write, and the last one we have, you know, sign language, like using gestures and everything. And then another one, we have conventions. Conventions is how sounds, let's say words, sentences, paragraphs, or texts are structured. For example, you know, in English, if you see a word, day beautiful, you know, like a lot of people might think that this is not English. It could be Indonesian if it is translated into Indonesian. The structure is actually like that, Indonesian, that's my language. But if we follow the structure of English, it is absolutely wrong. So it's better for us to, you know, check out the position of the structure. Like, it's not day beautiful, but it has to be switched, so it could be beautiful day. Or another example, let's say if you meet a stranger and then you're lost, for example, in the city, and then you're asking for help. When you meet a stranger, you definitely won't say, tell me where the museum is, but you could probably try to be a little bit more polite because you don't know them very well, so you can put like, could you tell me where the museum is? So that's the example of, you know, like conventions. So in the next video, we'll be talking about the ideological basis of language. It means how language should be valued. And the next one, we'll be talking about the competing theories between Noam Chomsky with his generative grammar, and also Michael A.K. Halliday with his functional grammar. And we also want to know, we'll be also talking about their influence in the view of the language. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you can get something from this linguistics short kind of video or vlog. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.